Imagine opening an ancient Egyptian tomb, untouched for 3,000 years, and discovering a perfectly preserved feast inside. In 1922, archaeologists exploring King Tutankhamun's burial chamber uncovered 48 wooden boxes filled with meats, no mould, no rot, miraculously preserved through millennia. How could Egyptians achieve such astonishing preservation without electricity or refrigeration in the blazing desert heat? By the end of this video, you'll uncover 7 ingenious and occasionally bizarre ways ancient Egyptians kept meat fresh, including one method that literally transformed meat into an immortal mummy. Welcome to Ancient Civilizations Discovered, where history's forgotten secrets come to life. Today, we journey to ancient Egypt, exploring how this remarkable civilization stored meat safely, even during scorching temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Without modern refrigeration, Egyptians had to innovate or face starvation. From clever use of salt and smoke to creative honey treatments and earthenware fridges, let's dive into 7 extraordinary methods the Egyptians relied on to keep their meat fresh, edible, and sometimes even immortalized. Number 7. Smoking. Preservation through ancient smokehouses. Step into an ancient Egyptian kitchen. Smoke fills your nostrils, stinging your eyes, as strips of duck and beef dangle above smouldering fires of acacia wood. This wasn't just for culinary flair. Smoke effectively dried meats, infusing them with antibacterial properties. Hanging above slow-burning fires, meats lost moisture, creating a protective coating against bacteria. Egyptians meticulously regulated smoke intensity, turning humble homes into makeshift smokehouses. Imagine a fisherman's hut by the Nile, where catfish and perch slowly dry, transforming into savory smoked protein that could be safely stored for weeks. These ancient smoke-preserved foods were vital for extended journeys and periods of scarcity, offering sustenance long after fresh meat had spoiled. Number 6. Sun drying. Harnessing the desert sun. The fierce Egyptian sun, typically a menace to food preservation, was cleverly repurposed into an ally. Egyptians thinly sliced meats, placing them on open racks beneath the relentless sun. Within days, the desert air extracted nearly all moisture, leaving tough yet safely preserved strips akin to modern-day beef jerky or South African biltong. Visualize bustling markets near desert edges, vendors hawking sun-dried gazelle and fish, neatly arranged beneath the bright sun, their stalls buzzing with activity. This process not only preserved the meat, but made it portable, feeding travelers, soldiers, and distant villagers. Remarkably, dried fish exports became a profitable enterprise, reaching distant Mediterranean civilizations, solidifying Egypt's culinary influence across the ancient world. Number 5. Desert fridges. Cooling with evaporation. Astonishingly, Egyptians devised primitive refrigerators using nothing but clay pots and water. Known as zir pots, these porous containers allowed water to seep through walls, evaporating into the hot desert air. This evaporation caused internal temperatures to drop significantly, creating a natural cooling effect. Imagine an ancient household where these jars lined shaded walls, keeping contents refreshingly cool despite the blistering outside heat. Archaeological records even suggest Egyptians made ice overnight by exposing shallow clay trays of water to the clear, chilly desert skies, occasionally resulting in thin layers of ice by dawn. Although this method didn't offer freezing temperatures consistently, it significantly delayed spoilage, extending the freshness of stored meats and vegetables considerably. And if you think drying meats in the sun or creating ancient fridges was impressive, just wait until you hear about our number 1 method: a preservation technique so extreme and effective that Egyptians literally turned meat into mummies. Stick around. You won't believe how far Egyptians went to preserve meat for eternity. Number 4. Sealing in fat, ancient Greece preservation. Perhaps more surprising, Egyptians employed rendered animal fat as a highly effective meat preservative. After cooking, meat was packed into clay pots and sealed tightly beneath a thick, hardened layer of animal fat, creating an airtight barrier that prevented bacterial growth. Imagine lifting a clay pot's lid to reveal tender, perfectly preserved beef, sealed beneath a gleaming layer of white fat. To consume, Egyptians scraped aside this fatty layer, removed portions, and then resealed the meat again with freshly melted fat. While seemingly primitive, this method mirrored modern canning principles, proving highly effective for weeks or months. Civilizations from the Romans to medieval Europeans later adopted similar fat-sealing techniques, underscoring Egypt's early innovation in food preservation. Number 3. Honey curing. Sweet preservation for eternity. Honey wasn't merely a sweet indulgence for ancient Egyptians. It was a potent preservative capable of protecting meat indefinitely. Honey's unique antibacterial properties, low moisture content, acidity, and hydrogen peroxide, created an environment hostile to bacteria. Egyptians submerged cooked meats or fruit into pots filled with honey, ensuring long-term freshness. Archaeologists have discovered honey preserved within Egyptian tombs, still edible after 3,000 years, highlighting honey's timeless effectiveness. Imagine tasting a slice of duck glazed in honey, untouched by decay, centuries after preparation. Although primarily reserved for small quantities due to honey's value, this luxurious preservation method represents an extraordinary culinary innovation that captivated later civilizations, from Greeks to medieval Arabs. Number 2. Salt and brine. The power of ancient curing. Salt was undoubtedly Egypt's greatest preservative asset, widely available from Nile Delta marshes and desert lakes. Egyptians skillfully cured meats by rubbing or immersing them in coarse salt or concentrated brines, removing moisture and rendering food virtually impervious to bacterial spoilage. Visualize Egyptian fishers lining clay pots with layers of freshly caught Nile perch and abundant salt, carefully sealed to cure over several days. Salted meats and fish could last months, nourishing armies, pyramid builders, and villagers alike. Such proficiency in salting transformed food preservation into a specialized and essential trade, at times even controlled by temple officials. Salted bird delicacies, reminiscent of modern prosciutto, were consumed without further cooking, showcasing Egypt's early mastery of culinary innovation and preservation. Number 1. Meat mummies. Preserved for eternity. Finally, the Egyptians' ultimate preservation technique was reserved for royalty and the afterlife: meat mummification. Believing pharaohs required sustenance in eternity, Egyptians embalmed meats similarly to human mummies. After thorough drying with natron, cuts of goose, duck, cattle, and antelope were wrapped in linen bandages and sealed with costly resins imported from distant lands like Syria. These resin-covered meat mummies, carefully stored in ornate wooden boxes, remained remarkably preserved over millennia. Imagine archaeologists unwrapping bundles containing clearly identifiable ribs of beef or duck, perfectly intact after thousands of years. King Tut's tomb alone housed 48 boxes of these astonishing meat mummies, symbolic feasts prepared for an eternal afterlife. This extraordinary preservation method, although ritualistic, underscores the profound Egyptian understanding of preservation, capturing meat's freshness across the span of history itself. So, Could you keep meat fresh in ancient Egypt's harsh climate? Through smoke, sun, fat seals, honey cures, salt brines, natural fridges, and even mummy techniques, Egyptians developed unparalleled methods to ensure their survival. Their ingenuity not only sustained them for millennia, but laid foundations for preservation methods still admired today. Which Egyptian preservation technique astonished you the most? Would you taste meat preserved for centuries in honey? Or perhaps brave a bite from a meat mummy? Comment below, hit like, and subscribe for more hidden historical marvels.